It's daybreak on Rise News. It's time for the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages. Let's begin with this day. It leads with Buhari to Shettima. I will hand over to you and your boss in 2023, God willing. Stakeholders identify non-oil exports as panacea for economic rejuvenation at Zenith Bank International Trade Seminar. Nigeria in darkness as national power grid suffers sixth collapse in 2022. This is on page 5.
All right, let's look at this is, oh, well, the point. The point. I was wondering because I read this yesterday, so I was wondering what it was today's. NLC rejects Buhari's 2-week ultimatum, insists on protest, that is on ASU strike with 3 riders there. NLC forced 2-week timeline, says 3 days enough to meet, demands. Planned protest illegal, Nigeria Labour Congress partisan, says government. ASU says not going back on protest. Aviation workers plan their own strike. And there you see a picture of Tinubu lifting the hands of Shettima, his running mate, that was officially shown to the presented to the public yesterday. Anti-Shettima forces angry as Tinubu defends running mate. How Ibubagu killed my 7 brothers in my presence, wherever of what transpired in Imo State. Adeleke wins appeal, gets certificate of return, and then let's look at the topmost and see what it is saying. Just some of the stories there. Blackouts as grid collapses from 3.922 megawatts to 50. That is unacceptable. Maybe we'll go to the next paper.
Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning with similar headlines. But the leading headline here, Tinubu on Shettima, have made a hard and best choice. And just below that, blackout as grid collapses to 0 megawatts thrice in 3 hours. More headlines here, Labour's unplanned protest unlawful, says the federal government. And just above the nameplate of the Nation newspaper, Akeredolu orders sack of civil servants on double salaries. And in Osun State, the Osun governor-elect and deputy gets certificates of return.
The Daily Sun, presidential election must win for APC. That's Tinubu speaking, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress. ASU, federal government declares NLC's proposed solidarity protest illegal. Blackout, anxiety as National Grid records 6th collapse. And the Christian Association of Nigeria disowns bishops at Shettima's unveilings.
All right, let's get to international papers. Interesting stories coming out of the local. Let's look at what is happening in international. It says, blue, a dogfight as Sunak and Truss face off. This is quite interesting how Truss just The Guardian, how Truss leapfrogged Modont to come second. There's now a face-off between the two of them. The next international paper.
The Independent and similar headlines. A fresh start for Britain. Tories move on from Johnson with the ministers who backed him through scandal after scandal.
The Times, hasta la vista, baby. Quentin lets in Johnson's final PMQs, and Sunak says, pick me or lose power.
Hasta la vista, is that Spain or Spanish? Daily Express, before we call in Emmanuel. Daily Express, very well, Boris, parting shot at Rishi, and a hint, I will be back. Isn't that interesting? All right, let's bring in Emmanuel and look at this day newspaper. Emmanuel, good morning. Glad to have you this wonderful Thursday. Let's start with this day. It says, Buhari to Shettima, Tinubu's running mate. I'll hand over to you and your boss in 2023, God willing, with some riders. The optimistic APC's Muslim ticket will win presidential poll. Remain committed to selection choice. Tinubu insists. Can deserves bishops who attended Shettima's unveiling. I was there. I saw the bishops were there against those who attended. I thought it was freedom of association. Yeah, Emmanuel.
Indeed. Good morning. You say you saw the bishop, but you know, sadly, that's what came out of yesterday's event. It will have been a Shettima's moment, his moment in the sun, his unveiling, like they call it. And it was supposed to be a grandiose event. It's supposed to, you know, rally around the APC together. But it turned out to be, the media wasn't, especially in the socials, that's not the focus. The focus was on those bishops that you say you saw. And a lot of people, you know, laughing, almost mocking the drama that ensued from that. A lot of Nigerians were wondering who those bishops are. The socials were just, in fact, the event itself got lost in those moments. I mean, that aspect of the event, with people saying that it's a desperate, very desperate move by a ticket that has been roundly rejected by the Christian community. The Christian has been so clear about this ticket. Can really rally his base and condemning it completely. So they saw those coming of the bishop, the ostentatious coming of those bishops, as a very desperate, you know, almost like, you know, a last-ditch effort to win any kind of support from the Christian community. Sadly, it didn't sell. It didn't also sell, and it didn't fly. What you saw was a situation where a lot of people mocked it, that attempt. It's almost like a 419 that was badly executed, and it didn't cut with the demography that the Muslim ticket has really offended. Even yesterday, immediately Khan issuing a press statement and focusing mostly on those bishops. So it backfired. If it was supposed to gain some support or supposed to show that, look, there are people supporting this ticket even from that community, it's really backfired because of the serious anger in the Christian community against this ticket. It's a hard sell, and you just have to pity candidates of the APC who are Christians who have to go to Christian-dominated areas to go and campaign. There's no way they can sell this. They're making efforts, but you know, they are saying, look, try to divest religion from politics, think of competencies. But everything seems to be adding you know, gasoline to the fire. Each time you talk about competence, the Christian community will feel, you know, insulted. They will say, what do you mean by competence? Each time you say, look, why not separate religion from politics? You actually rile them even more in saying that. So it's a no-win situation. And yesterday's effort at, you know, a lot of people believe that those were not bishops, that they were hired. Some actually identifying them as mechanics, and you know, all sort of people that this were just robed people. These were just actors. These were people just paid to come and show up. And they didn't make it, those bishops too didn't make it any easier for the party because they wouldn't identify themselves. They won't talk to the media. Nobody knew their identity. And and a lot of people on their own, you know, trust our eye reporters all over. People fact-checking on who they are, you know, zeroing on their faces to say whether they can even identify them. So that really generally backfired. Of course, the big story that the papers are leading with today was what Shettima said or what Tinubu said or what the president said. But yesterday it was roundly overshadowed by what really backfired, the attempt to show that, look, even the Christian community accepts this ticket. It backfired so sensationally.
Well, Emmanuel, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. Leading with the ASU strike, it says the NLC is rejecting President Buhari's 2-week ultimatum. It says 3 days is enough to sort all this out. They also say they are carrying on with that planned protest next week, which the federal government has now said is unlawful and is just going to cause anarchy. What are your thoughts?
Well, NLC has also responded in Kitchen saying that, look, it has its own constitutional right to protest. So you can't take that away from the Constitution happily. And so NLC is saying that it's going to join in the protest. And yes, it's saying that, look, where you have a serious-minded government, you don't need 2 weeks. And this is further compounded by the back and forth, the flip-flop, even between government officials. Ngige seem to be suggesting that the problem lies squarely with the Minister of Education. I mean, he's suggesting that. and saying that, denying that he was asked. Yesterday, the report was that he was sacked from the negotiation. He's saying that nothing like that is happening. Well, it's even ASU itself saying that part of the problem is Ngige, the labor minister. They don't like his style at negotiating with them. He says one thing and then another day he turns it. In the middle of all this is the crisis itself. What ASU is calling for, saying, look, we need to be paid. You need to listen to our agitation. And now NLC is saying that, look, if you have a serious government in place, these are matters that can be dealt with in days and not the kind of weeks or the ultimatum that the government is giving. And you tend to agree because we're talking about figures. And ASU itself tried to simplify this for the federal government and say, look, why not do this in batches? Why not just consider some of the things that we've done already on ground, some of the agreements entered in the past? So I think this is crunch time, and it's coming to a head now. Unfortunately, at the time that the president really want to deal with it, in fairness to him, really want to deal with the situation, even giving some kind of matching orders on the matter, the NLC and ASU itself are saying that, look, it's almost too late, we've run out of patience, and those strikes are going to happen. Aviation workers also planning to join on the strike and everything. Next week might just be a stricken week for everybody.
Emmanuel, when the president gave his marching orders, I wonder if he had power, or maybe the generator was on, because for the better part of yesterday, I was in darkness because the grid collapsed again. And Nigerians keep crying. It's the 6th time. Where do we turn to from here?
In this program, we're always saying we always stop lamenting. I mean, because we are all, you and I, all of us are involved in this. It's almost like, in fact, in one of the reports, I think it's the Punch report, where at the end of the report, the reporter was saying that it's an intractable problem, a problem that, and it's shameful too, it's embarrassing. Like I keep saying, all over the world, I think nations are dealing with, technologies, finding new ways of generating electricity. And a nation cannot be bigger than, those megawatts, those power generation. It's affecting businesses. Beyond that, it's also affecting even perception, how you are perceived around the world. And big businesses that really matter, might want to even reconsider their position, their place in your economy, because we can't be bigger. It's so shameful that we've gone from 3,000, which is actually a far cry from what we should be doing, to just start 40 megas, or some papers saying 50 megas. Whatever it is, there's a national breakdown of this, and we're all in darkness. And that's exactly what it is. You can't, if there's no lights, you don't have light for anything. This is on a day that the government, the ruling government, the government in power is saying that it's planning to still continue. Actually talking about legacy. Is it the legacy of this national collapse, the legacy of darkness, or the legacy of insecurity as you have it? So those are some of the things. Unfortunately for the APC, it is things like this, not what they say, but things like this national breakdown, this national grid breakdown, this lack of light that actually defines its campaign. It's on the ballot, whether they like it or not. Its performance in these sectors are on the ballot. And as we're in the presidential cycle of election, this is a serious takeaway from, takeaway from their whatever they are going to present. A lot of people will continue to view them from the prism of things like this, lack of light, the problem of security, those ASU strikes, those strikes coming next week. Those are the kind of legacy that will define this government, making it very hard for them to go sell themselves again to the people and say, look, we need to be re-elected. So it's a serious problem. Yeah, baby. On one hand, it's of course the problem that affects you and I, but a larger problem is what affects also the ruling party on how they go about trying to convince Nigerians to give them, another opportunity to run this country.
Just very briefly, let's look at the international papers. He says in Daily Express, he said, last hooray for outgoing PM as Truss and Sunak prepare to battle it out. Farewell, Boris, batting shot at Rishi, and a hint, I will be back. I don't understand I will be back to Downing 10 or where. But Truss moving out of Mordaunt, just briefly, Emmanuel.
Well, I don't know whether I can take a position, but I'm actually with Truss. And a lot of people saying that, Rishi did not pass the loyalty test. You remember he's the guy that, left the PM in a lodge at the time he's needed. That seems to be working against. Boris. Well,
Boris was not doing what he was supposed to do.
Well, that seemed to be...
So he had to ditch
Sadly, that is working against him. People have actually say that, look, he did not pass the loyalty test. Just on the other hand, stayed on this on her duty, actually backing, Johnson. I don't know why that is not working against her. But she seemed to be, she's now like the favorite. And I think at the end of the day, these contests are based on the issues, the issues of the economy and how best they can deal with the crisis of the British, the UK's economy and all those issues. So they are issue-based kind of debates, and at the end of the day, the decisions will be based on who the best think can pilot the Conservative Party through even to the general election. And I think the trust seem to be really leading in those in that regard.
You and I will put a bet on Rishi and Trust after this program, Emmanuel. All right, that will be. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. That's a press review.